Hey, what's up? My name is Lisa. Welcome to For the Love of Creating. Today, I'm going to teach you how to paint this little cutie. Let's just get right into it. For today's painting, I've went ahead and I just sketched out our owl and kind of where the trees are going to be. So if you want to go ahead and take a screenshot of that, you absolutely can, just to get a general sketch of where everything is going to be. And then for our paint, we're using titanium white, Ivory Black, raw umber, cerulean blue, and cadmium yellow. So we're gonna start by filling in the background and kind of building everything up. We're gonna start with the basic blocking in of color, and then we're gonna go in with some details. So to get started, this back area here, back here, and kind of down here, we want all of that area. I'm just gonna make sure that these are going down all the way. Got this guy kind of over here. Okay, we want to make sure that all of these are filled in. So the color that we're looking for is like a gray color with just a hint of cerulean blue, sort of when you're like out in the snowy areas. And it's just kind of like a gray sky, but you're getting that little bit of blue coming through. So get a whole bunch of white, just a little pinch of black. And you can always add more black. It's just such a pain in the butt if you add too much to start with, and then just a little pinch of blue, probably about the same as the black, maybe a little bit more. Okay, you'll mix that all together. And we'll just get this nice blue-gray color kind of going for our background. And then to get this on the canvas, I am going to use a wash brush. I have a 1-inch wash brush that I use all the time. So let me grab that. I'm liking how that color is looking. That's pretty good. And yes, I'm gonna use this wash brush that I use very often. Okay, 3/4 of an inch wash brush. And go ahead and get it wet first. Get any of the excess water off of it, kind of dab that off, and then we're going right in with this color and just follow these lines. So all of the background, everything that's kind of not defined, we want to fill in with this color. And it's okay if you go over your pencil marks. It's actually kind of good because when we go back in, we don't want them to be these crisp lines. So that'll just kind of give us a good backdrop. And we're gonna go in with another layer. So just do your best to get it covered, but you don't have to be like crazy about it. I can get a little perfectionistic sometimes, and recently I've learned in my own world that I enjoy it a lot more if I kind of let it be a little freer. So I'm gonna challenge you to do the same. And I'm also gonna go ahead and do just a little bit down under on the bottom edge, because hypothetically this tree, we kind of get cut off here. So I'm gonna let that come all the way down to the bottom. And while I'm down here, I'll just go ahead and fill in these other places where I know the edge of the painting would be this gray blue color. So for this painting, I actually took 2 different reference photos. And so we're kind of combining 2 things. And in the original one, there was some birch trees, and I think we're gonna pull some of that in here as well. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're just laying down some colors. I was looking up different owls that I potentially wanted to paint, you would not believe the personalities in some of these owls. They just looked so funny. I like this guy though. He seemed like he just kind of fit the vibe for today. A little serious, but just like this majestic, beautiful creature. Okay, so once you have all of that blue down, you can also go ahead and make sure you get underneath and on the sides. And as that dries, which it should dry pretty quickly, we are just gonna go right back in with a second coat. And so I'm gonna go ahead and get these sides over here. This is like one of the best brushes I own. It's like, it always is so soft and clean whenever I use it. It's just, it's really good. Okay, make sure you get the corner. And then I am gonna leave that space for the rest of the branch coming off. Okay, make sure you get that top part, and then we're just gonna come right back through as soon as it's dry, do a second coat, just to kind of get that second layer down. Okay, I'm loving how this is turning out as it's drying. It's just a really rich, wintry color. All right, and once you get that second coat on there, you can go ahead and wash off your brush. We're gonna be using this same brush to block in the rest of our main colors. So go ahead, if you have any paint left on it, just kind of get the rest of the paint off. Swirl it in your water. Ay, 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 okay. Okay, so now we're gonna go in and we're gonna work a little bit on our trees. Again, just blocking in some colors. So we wanna get that same kind of gray color to start, but instead of adding in blue, we wanna add in just a little bit of brown and a little bit of yellow to give it a nice color. So you can use that same, I'm gonna use the same one because it's okay to get a tiny little bit of blue, but I'm gonna get a big chunk of the white again. A little smidge of black. A little bit of our brown. Excuse me, raw umber. And then just a little pinch of this yellow. And then we're gonna use this as kind of like the base color and build it out in both directions. So with, we're gonna get some shadow color from this, and then we're also going to get some brighter. So that yellow is a little overpowering. I think I'm gonna add just a little bit more brown. that much more. That much more. Okay, and then I'm gonna take this, we're gonna go over here with some of it. And I'm gonna get some more white. And these will be like our highlight colors. And now we have this whole range of color here. And we're gonna start there and then we're gonna build more in other directions. Okay, so using that same wash brush, we're gonna start with that darker color. And we just want to fill in here, and we're basically hitting all of the left sides of the tree. And make sure you get this side of your painting also. Yeah. Isn't it amazing how different this color looks next to the blue versus on the palette here? And then I actually went and marked in kind of where the stumps of different tree elements would be, like a broken off branch. So we know those parts are going to be have a lot of more dimension, but we just want to keep them separate at this point so that we can see it more so than like the color we're actually going to use. So what I mean by that is I'm just going to actually go in with this lighter color, even though it's probably going to be darker. And then I'm gonna go in with the darker color for this guy over here, just so we have the difference of the two. Actually, I need that. Okay. And again, we're just blocking in our trees, and we will fill in more detail as we're going. So I'm also going to take this lighter color for this part here. And then we're going to take that same light color and get the bottom part, and we're going to do this middle part, the dark color again. Okay, And then we're gonna do the same thing on these two. We're just gonna have the left side with that dark color. And then we're gonna do the right side with the lighter color, and we will add more detail in as we're going, but that's just kind of a baseline. So there's the dark. Going dark over here. And we will come back in with the light, going on the other side. And you can blend those together as you're going for that middle section. And again, just go ahead and blend it in with the other one if it's still wet, which it should be. Okay, and then we want to do our branch here also. And so for the branch, we have some white blocked in for our snow that we're gonna put in there. And then underneath, this is the branch part. So we wanna put the dark of these colors right underneath where that snow is, because it's essentially a shadow. It's okay if you go over his little paws. I guess they're claws, not paws. And then just follow behind with the light. Again, just filling in the rest of the branch. Blending that in as you're going along. Let's get some more of that lighter one. Here. And just blend it all out. Okay, we've got a fairly good start. And then just go ahead and make sure that you're filling in all of the sides of your painting. That way you're not trying to match all the colors up later. If there's any spots you missed, you can just go over them. And this is just the base layer, but you know, it's good to be diligent. And we gotta fill in where that knob would be again. Okay, very nice, very nice. All right, so once you have that, Once again, go ahead and wash off your brush, and we're going to do something a little bit different to block in the colors of our owl. Once your brush is dry again, go ahead, we're going to fill this in. Now we're going to do a very, very light gray. So almost pretty much the rest of this white you have. And we want all of the details to come through. So that's why we're just doing like a light gray to get kind of our baseline color. And then we're just gonna build up onto it. So we're gonna use like pure white when we go in for some of those details. And then same thing with our snow, but we're gonna add a little bit of blue to it when the time comes. So this is just for the bird guy for now, our cute little owl. I feel like maybe we should name our owls. Okay, so my first thought was Rupert, but I think that's just because I'm thinking about Harry Potter. But I like my little guy. He's so cute so far. Okay, so we just want to block in all of it with that gray. And I mean, it's pretty dark gray, but it's not super dark gray, right? Like it's mostly white. And so we're just trying to get the edges of our owl blocked in. And make sure we got his little wing, his little peat. And then just like a really light layer, because we want to be able to see again all of these details that we're going to go in and put in here in a little bit. I know your cute little face there, dude. So as you can see, I can still see everything going on underneath there. And it's just a nice guide. And if you're at home and you did not copy it down, that's totally good. The way that you see these shapes, like when we're done with this gray, you'll have a much easier time of, if you're like, I can't trace that, Lisa, you're crazy. You can always look at the shape that comes out here, because it will be a much better representation of the shape that you need to put down on your canvas. Okay, got a little PD guy here. And so this again is just allowing me to really take my time to block in exactly where I want this guy to be, and looking at the shape more than the details. This first layer is always more about shape than details. Get his little tail guy here. Okay, and then with that same chunk of gray that you have still down here, you're just going to add some blue. Just a little bit. And we're getting another gray blue color, similar to our background gray blue, but this is going to be our base of our snow that's here on the tree. And we might go ahead and just block in some more. And that's actually a little too dark for me. I like the blue in there though. Blue's great. We need a little bit more blue, just a little smidge, and some more white. Alright, I love that color, super pretty. And again, this is kind of like our baseline of our snow. And I'm actually gonna go ahead and get some more white before I start this next little chunk here. So, some more white. And as we're working on the snow, I'm actually gonna build it out just a little bit. So I'm gonna put the blue down at the bottom here. And I'm gonna fill it almost to the top. Same thing on this side. And as you can see, that there was a little bit of that brown still on my palette knife, and I just let it ride because snow is water is reflective. And so it's just kind of reflecting the colors that are in the atmosphere and environment that it's in. So go ahead and get the rest of that off of your brush for the most part. And it's okay if you have a little bit. And we're just gonna go in with the bright white and put it on top of that blue. Don't blend it yet. Get the other white at the very tippy top. And then just pull it down into the blue and blend it out. Pull it down into the blue and blend. So you'll have a little bit of a gradient, and you should have a little bit of white at the top. And again, that's just our first layer. We're gonna go back in and really brighten up the white and bring the blue down too. So I'm gonna get a little bit more of that blue because we lost a lot of it down here. It's a really good start, guys. I'm really excited about the snow. Okay, and then we also want to, you know, this here is like the side of the trees coming down and popping out. So we're getting snow kind of caught in these little crevices here. So I'm just gonna block those in also. And just put a little bit of white on top of that. Blend it out just a little bit so we can start getting some shapes of our snow up there. Cool, guys. So cool. All right. So now that we have like our main things blocked in, the next thing we want to do is let this dry before we go on to the next phase of the painting. Okay, so now that everything is dry, we're gonna work on the trees and kind of bring them to life a little bit more. So to do that, we are going to be putting in some of the places where the bark is a little bit different, has some texture. So we want to get our brown again. And this one we want to be a bit darker, but we don't want it to be this just plain dark color. So we want to get white again to thin it out. So you can see it's much darker color that we're working with. And part of the darker is because of where it is on the painting. So we still need just a pinch of yellow to keep our color consistent. And we will start, that color looks good to me. Okay, so we're gonna use that. And we're gonna go in with a flat brush. And this one, I don't know what size this is, but it's this big. Looks like maybe half of an inch. Go ahead and get your brush wet. Get out any excess water. And then we're just using the tip of the brush to make some really cool patterns and designs. So the first thing I'm gonna do is actually come in and kind of go around this spot right here, because we know that we've got some crazy veins kind of coming through. And so the next thing I want to do, I'm going to put some texture down here. So this is just going to be a big kind of triangle. And then I want to give this spot right here that we're going to bring it up a little bit more. I'm just going to give it kind of a little bit of texture going either direction. Okay, and we can see, I'll go ahead and kind of pull that out a little bit more where it's going to be. Okay, so as you can see, we're just kind of bringing this to life using that line, okay? And so, and then just like keep going and adding more texture and dimension. I'm gonna add kind of another piece going this way. And then we can also start adding stuff to our branch also, so we can get some stuff kind of curly Q in here. And then we also want to take this dark because it's a good shadow, and we're just going to bring it right under our snow that's on the branch. And you're just going to kind of trace along it. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it's also kind of better if you kind of get like different, you can see how like it's almost creating grain when you kind of let that side of the brush do what it wants. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, and then I want to bring this up here. We gotta kind of highlight these other spots. So I want to cut that there. Make sure that where these two lines are meeting, we also have this edge here. So I'm gonna do the same at the top. And again, our snow is obviously in the way, but that's kind of what we got. Okay. And then I also want to put some kind of big guy up here. And I don't want to do this whole edge because we want it to be kind of different. But as you can see, it's just kind of coming to life as we add in these details. Now the next thing I'm going to do with this same color is I'm going to start adding lines that are going horizontally. I forgot which direction that was for a second. And you really want to have crisp lines here, so make sure any excess paint is off of your brush so you're getting that crisp kind of edge. And you're just filling it to the very little bit at the top, and that'll give you a nice clean line going across. And these ones you can kind of give them some direction, which is going to give shape to our tree. And just kind of place them like sporadically throughout, and you can see it's giving it some depth and texture. All right, I want to have some more lines kind of running vertically with this part of our tree too. And then we got a lot of stuff coming off of this little guy. And so you just want to do that on the whole tree. You don't want to forget this little knob here either that we have. So again, you can see I'm just kind of cleaning off my brush to get more crisp lines. And if you're liking how this is looking, but you want it to be even more detailed, you could go in with a thinner brush. I really like this one. It's just kind of suiting my needs right now. I'm gonna go ahead and add some dimension here too. Get these lines going across here. So it's clearly implying a lot of stuff. Definitely giving a lot of room for your mind to kind of fill in the details. And while we have the same color, we're going to work a little bit on the branch too. So this is going to be more of, we're trying to create some shape with our branch, right? So this is what we're painting. So we want to kind of use that shape on our lines here. And you don't want them to be too similar, so you just want to give it like variation. And so here we're actually up against the side of the tree, and I'm going to go ahead and give this just a little bit more depth, because we got a little bit of a shadow from the fact that it's coming off here. And so we are going to come back in with other colors and kind of things that will give it even more dimension. You can see I'm kind of adding in a little nub on this guy too. So don't worry about doing too much or filling it in too much, because we want some space to work with. And then I actually want to make this shadow a little bit darker, deeper. That feels good. Okay, and then we want to do the same kind of patterning on our trees back here. So I'm going to start with where I might want to have some of these knots and just kind of go from there. There's so much history in trees, like in the life of a tree. It's always really cool to think about that as you're painting them. And because it's a little further back, we can't see as much detail, but we can definitely add in these same kinds of lines to give us that round effect. So now we're working on like this part of a tree. you're just kind of taking it up and down, giving it that same shape. And then for these guys back here, we actually want to go ahead and give this more shadow. And so this color is good for this shadow. So we're just gonna kind of line the tree on the left side. And this is a good chance to get a really clean line. And then the line on the inside, you want it to be a little different because that's giving us some more shape too. And so just like with this tree, we want to give this guy some interesting shapes on the inside also. So we want to get some horizontal lines kind of going too. Okay, then we're gonna do the same thing on this guy. We'll start with our shadow line here. And then our owl is in the way, but we can go ahead and keep that going down here. We'll add in a few more of these lines and a couple horizontal ones so we can see it. So we'll go ahead and give it some texture. And you can see I'm like barely touching the canvas with this brush, so I'm getting it nice and cleaned off, but it's got that sharp edge. You pick up just a little bit of paint, that's a little too much, a little bit of paint, and then you just barely touch the canvas. And you're gonna just naturally create all these really cool, interesting lines coming down. And let's see, we wanna get some more of these. Let's get on the side, we got a little guy here. Maybe we'll put one up here somewhere. I'm liking how these lines are looking. It's giving us a lot of character for our tree. I think I'm gonna add a little bit more on this one because I like him so much on that guy. Okay. And then we're gonna come in with our horizontal lines here. like it. I like it a lot. All right, so let's see, we need to start adding in some more color. So for this, we're gonna take the same color we currently have, and we are gonna make it a little bit darker to add in some more layers to everything. So we're gonna add just a little bit more brown. That's a lot, not that much. That much is good. And just a little bit of blue, because part of it being darker is it's in the shadows and the shade just a little bit more. So that blue is like the coolness you get when you lose the sunlight. That's pretty good color. Okay, awesome. So we're gonna keep using that same brush. You're gonna pick up that darker color, and you're actually just gonna kind of follow behind what you were doing before, but not everywhere, only in some places. So you want it to be where there would naturally be darker lines. So like, you know, we have this kind of hole in here. I want that to be a bit darker. And I want my nubs where the branches broke off, I want those to have a little bit more darkness to them. I want this shadow over here to have a little bit more dark. A little bit of dark underneath exactly where our snowy creature is hanging out. A little bit under the snow. And then we can add in some places, we can just add in more texture and depth to the whole thing. So instead of like these same lines, you can add more lines. And if you want to get really detailed, you could get like a super, super thin, like as thin as you can possibly get it. And then you can follow behind on the edge here too. And that just gives it a whole other layer and depth. So again, I want to come into all the nubs. I want to add more. I want them to stand out just a little bit. Okay, and that should really bring a lot of depth to everything. I'm gonna come back over here, do the same thing on this edge, just a really tight line of the darker. And then just coming in. Not a ton, but just a few, kind of breaking up the tree a little bit. Oh my gosh, when did that get there? Is that on my clothes? When did that get there? It's on this. Okay, I see. So I did something over here. I see. Oh my gosh. Goodness gracious. Let me finish this before I clean it up. All right, I can't focus. I better clean that up first. Okay. So go ahead, wherever you are, go ahead and just take a pause, or I guess I'll take a pause. And then we'll get back to it. Okay, while that dries, we are gonna go ahead and start to work on our owl. And again, we're just gonna keep building layer, 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 layer. So first thing we want to do is we have just plain white and plain black, which we will be using, but we also want to get a nice gray color so we can just go between the three and not have to think about it too much. So there is white. I need a little bit more of that. And then just a little bit of black to get a nice gray color. And so we're gonna start blocking in kind of the main areas that need to be brighter white and the areas that have shadow, which is where we're gonna get our gray in. So there's a nice gray color, and we can, on the canvas, use these two colors to, you know, go between, like the bright white and then our gray. So I'm gonna use a filbert brush for this part, and it had some water in it because I was experimenting, but this is a pretty good brush just for like our big blocky sections in this situation. So the first thing I want to do is kind of block in where the gray is going to be. And so this is where you want to kind of follow the lines that we had earlier. So we kind of want to go like that. Fill in this guy here. Kind of got a circle guy here. And then we've got like under the first layer of fur. Feathers. Sorry, I was thinking about the polar bear I just painted a few days ago. And then we've got like his breast where, you know, it's coming down. So I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of draw generally where that is. Okay, now we just want to come in with the white and kind of fill that out a little bit. And I'm just using these quick motions because we got, this is like, you know, the feathers. So you want it to be feathery, and I'm just kind of trying to get a similar kind of feel for our feathers between these little gray sections. So I'm just doing quick little dabs. I'm using it in two ways. I'm using it on its side and I'm using it flat, because both are giving me, as I have less paint on my brush, they're both giving me more of that feather kind of look. And I'm just getting all around all of these gray areas. I'm gonna come back in a little bit more. And I wanna start working on his head a little bit too. So I'm just gonna kind of leaving the spot where the eyes and the beak are a little alone for now. Using the side of my brush and letting that paint stay very textured. So we want to get, so these would be going this direction in the world. Where this guy lives, his feathers are going that direction. So that's the direction of our brush strokes. We want to keep it consistent. So let's get a little bit more paint. We want to come down here. Make sure it looks nice and feathery. And then we also have some little tufts kind of right in here. Don't want to miss those. And then we also want to make sure we get the inside of this right here. I'm just building that white on top. So you want to, in order to keep that gray, you just kind of go on either side of it. So you're just like building out. Again, just short little strokes. That's going to keep that really cool feathery kind of look. Yeah, make sure we're getting that. He looks so goofy right now. He looks like an abominable snowman, but that's okay. We're gonna get there. It just takes a little bit of finagling. Make sure under the eyes are super white. And the darkest part, so right underneath his beak, so his beak is gonna go right there. We want this part to be darkest right here, but we don't want to lose the dimension of his little smiley thing going on either. Okay. Such a cool animal, bird. Okay, and then this side, we actually see the inside of his wing here. So here we see the outside, right? This is the outside of one of his wings. This is the inside we see right on the edge. So that we want to be white before we come in and see this part, which is, you know, his breast right there. Make sure we're getting all that. This is a great brush for this. I'm glad I picked it. Okay, just keep building, 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 building. Since our white dries a little see-through, we're gonna have to go in and do a few layers. And then I wanna come and make sure I get his little peats here. And then for this, we also wanna make sure that we have a distinction between the two. So I wanna get that gray going between them just a little bit. And we can go back in and fill in our gray through here too, so we're not losing our dimension. Like as an example, we have kind of like some little, right here and here, we got these little like smiley looking things. He's a smiler. He doesn't know it, but he's a smiler. And so kind of filling that in and then going back in with the white, the way it'll blend will give us more dimension. Again, just build it out, build it out. And as we get to the top layers, you can actually let that paint sit a little bit thicker on your canvas, which will give it an interesting look, but it'll also, the texture really kind of makes things pop sometimes if you want to do something a little bit different. I'm just kind of doing these little circle, not circle, like a half circle kind of thing. You just want to try and mimic what the shape of the thing is. So you don't need to overthink it at all. All right, we will come back in with some more layers of our white, but I want to add in some of these details. Even right here, it's gonna need some more. Okay, so I want to go ahead and you can rinse off that brush. We're gonna come back to it here in a moment. But for now, if you just want to rinse it off, get any excess water out, set that to the side. The next brush that I want you to grab for detail is we're going to be using a smaller filbert brush. So this is a much smaller filbert brush. And I really like this one a lot. This one's pretty new to me. Like I just bought this brush. And I love it. I'm gonna use this all the time. So I wanna do two things right now. We really wanna add in our eyes and our nose and our claws. So the like black, straight up black things we're gonna add in first. So I'm just gonna outline the eye here. Draw in his little beak. Pretty good so far. And then we'll just add in his claws down here. What did I call him? Rupert? Little Rupert. He's a killer. All right, there's one. I got another one. He is on that freaking branch. Let me tell you, he's not going anywhere. All right, I got the wrong color on my brush. A little bit of black, and we're gonna do one. He's gonna come like right here. Looks like he's got a little bit of one coming out on this side over here, and another over here. Okay, and then I want to go ahead and put in the yellow in the eyes. So I'm just gonna use a round brush for that. And I don't want it to be just this dark color, so I'm gonna get a little bit of white to mix. Get kind of a lighter yellow. That looks more like what I'm looking for. And I'm just gonna fill in this. Try not to get the sides too much, but at the top, if you do, that's perfect because it creates like a little shadow. Same thing on this side. What a cool guy with his huge eyeballs. His eyes are huge, man, huge. White. Oh yeah, he's looking so cool. All right, I'm gonna let that dry. And then we're gonna go in and do the detail. I just kind of wanted to see where it was and how everything else was looking in it. Okay, cool. So the next thing we're gonna do is kind of start blocking in the really awesome black and white. So you're gonna pick up that same brush, it should still have black on it. And we're gonna use that. So the small filbert brush. And this is gonna look so cool. I wanna start up here though. And again, the feathers, the way that they're laying on this part, they're laying this way, right? So they could fluff up, but that means they're laying down here. Up top, it's the opposite. They're going back that way. So we're gonna start back here and just kind of fill in where those might be. And I'm just using this and doing like a little tiny turn. Using these just to get a little speckled area, okay? And so we only want it to come down to about here. And then it kind of goes back. He's got his little ear things, so we're just gonna do like some straight lines up that way. Just kind of block in what we're looking at. And then his eyes, I'm gonna take this eyelid and just bring it down a little bit more. Getting excess paint off of your brush. And then we're gonna start working a little bit on these feathers down here. So these guys are actually kind of under the white ones that we already have. So that's kind of the shape that we're going for. And we're just kind of following that pattern just like that. And so we know in this section right here, they kind of come up, they're nice and straight up against this, because this right here is the wing and then that's the breast. So if we follow that line down, this comes down here and then it picks back up around here, kind of following that same pattern and filling in on around the sides here. And then back here, these are like tiny little guys. And then these are all kind of falling this direction, where these ones are still that direction, but it's more coming down this way. By the time we get down here, you know, it's coming down and it's gonna be like right there, right? Because it's hitting this little section where the lines start going this way a little bit. Okay. I'm just kind of blocking in generally the shape of the feathers. That way it's kind of easy to piece it all together as we're going. So this is just the way I work, and since I'm teaching this to you guys, I'll show you how I do it. And then so same thing on these two, right? I know that these ones are kind of going out to the side and they're kind of underneath this set of white guys starting out, kind of just tucked underneath. We can barely see them. It's little half moons. And they're just kind of off to the side here. And then they end up straightening out. I'm sure you guys are starting to see how all of this kind of plays together. And then now that we've got this dried a little bit, I'm just gonna block in where the eyeballs, or where the black part of the eyeball is. It's actually a little too big, but we can fix it with some yellow here in a moment. That one's pretty good. And then it's a little bit more rounded. So this might be a detail brush fix situation. So we'll come back into that here in a moment. Yeah, we'll hold off on that because I'm messing it up right now. Okay, let's keep going with our black feathers though, because these are looking super cool. I think I changed my mind. I don't think he is a Rupert. He looks way too serious to be a Rupert. So with this section right here, what I'm kind of trying to do is differentiate between the two sections so that you can see that like this is definitely his wing and that is not his wing, right? So that's some of these we get some of these longer ones too inside of these guys. Let's see, we've got like these. So now we kind of have both sections blocked in. Oh my God, I forgot about those eyes. We got to fix that like ASAP. They look insane. Okay, but you're starting to get the general gist, I hope, of everything. So go ahead and clean off that brush. We're going to be using it some more with our white here in a minute. But before we do that, I'm just going to go in because my eyes look insane now that they should be dry-ish. I'm just going to go over them with yellow, another white yellow kind of color. We're going to try that one more time. All right, now we're gonna go back in with our white and shape these a little bit more, and we gotta fill in some white down here. So I'm just gonna go right in for the white and just kind of okay. All right, and then we're gonna go back to the original larger brush we were using earlier, the filbert brush, for the rest of our white and some of our dimension that we're gonna be doing. So the first thing we need to do is, right now they look very blocky next to each other. So we want to kind of, one, go over some of these areas to get some more texture, but we also want to get it so it's incorporated a little bit better. So we're just going to kind of pull that white through, and that actually needs to dry a little bit more. So while that is doing that, we're going to come up top and just do some more layering at the top. Get some more featheries kind of going. And then we do have some of this white up here. You want to go right over where we put those little black spots. And then we're just going to take some of that and go back and forth. Now that white, we need some more white. Put it over here. Just gonna kind of fill in that spot. We're gonna take that, just go straight up. And then just fill in our snowy, feathery guy. And for this part, when we start getting into like back down where the black feathers show up, we want them to go over on the top little section because we want them to be incorporated. So same thing going down the side here. And this also kind of gives it the fluff of all of his feathers. We got this kind of shape that we need to pull out down here as well. And then we're just going to go in and put a little bit of white with all of those black marks. And that's going to give it a lot more depth and texture too. Now it's basically like adding in some highlights. And you know, some of the feathers go over the black ones and vice versa. And then we'll go back in once more with the white, or the black, just to kind of finish it off too. And then while we have our white out, I also want to go in and just take that white and we're gonna just top off these sections of snow that we had accumulating earlier, including just on top of where the owl guy is sitting. Okay, and then you're just gonna let that dry, and then we're gonna go back in and keep working on our bird guy. Okay, once it's dried, the next thing that we're gonna do is actually go in with white, and we're gonna go over all of this area so that none of the harshest part of that black is showing anymore. And you wanna follow the same direction that we were using before. So same strokes as before. And we're just kind of merging everything together into one cohesive piece. And so this is kind of like our undercoat, so to speak. And now it should be looking a lot fluffier, a lot more like our nice fluffy friend we got here. And then the last thing we're gonna do is just take a little bit of this gray and highlight some of those original marks of black with just a little bit of that gray. To bring them out just a little bit more. Following behind with our white again. So now that we've got the undercoat finished, that crisp black, we are just about ready for it again. And so you can see this is going to look really different because instead of going in with just black or just white, we're gonna fill up our brush with white first, and then you're gonna get just the edge of your brush black. So it's white with that little edge black, and then we're just gonna dab it to get that same kind of pattern going all the way up. And you're just gonna follow your undercoat to see generally the shape and where you want it to go. And so in this section, I want it to be a little bit tighter. As we're going kind of up the side here until we get kind of up higher where we hit this side. And so when we get to this point, you really want to be good about washing off your brush. And then I'm actually just going to come back in with some white, because right here, I want this to come over top of it, because it's kind of like the fur that's like right at the top, and it's going to go this direction too. So you'll see that a little bit more clearly here in a moment. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. So go ahead and get all of the paint off of your brush. Fill the whole thing up with white again. If you get too much, this is about how much you want to start with. And then you're just going to get that edge black. Like so, okay? And then you obviously have a lot to start with, so you don't want to press too hard right off the top, but it's the same kind of principle. And you're just going to follow that pattern up again. I'm running out of paint, so I'm going to use the other side and just flip it over. We're just doing this one section first so that we don't get lost in what we're doing. Okay, I'm kind of running out of paint, so I'm going to make sure that all the excess is off. Fill it up with white. And then come in with black. Kind of follow that same pattern. And then this also, we get that fur coming off of the top, so we want to make sure that we leave that space for it. That way we can really see it popping through. Okay. And then we can come over here and start working on this back side. So these are like way different because it's the wing. So we've got like these guys over here, but we also have like super hard lines going that way, coming up this way. I'm just following that pattern again. Side there, so my brush is just about out. I'm gonna get out the excess, fill it up again, get any excess off, and then get that end just like that. We're just gonna keep going up the side here. So as you can see, I'm really just gently like pushing this down. My paint's in the way. We really want that to turn as it's going around to the side here too. Okay. All right. And there are all of our feathers. And then we just want to go back in, make sure we get this part cleaned in that we were doing a second ago. So we want those feathers to kind of come down. Okay. And then the next thing we want to do is just go in and highlight any white areas that still look like they could use a little love. So I want to come in, just get a little bit more up here. And then what we did down here, we're also gonna do up top with the smaller filbert brush. So fill it up with white, get a little black on the end, And then we're gonna hold the brush this direction this time, since this is the direction of our little feathers. And these are smaller, we want them a little closer together. They're kind of gonna go outward, spread out more as we're going. All right. I'm just gonna fill in these little guys in here. So I do a couple lines going up. And then I'm going to go in with pure yellow, or pure cadmium yellow, and I'm just going to fill in where the shadow would be with it. And then I'm just gonna take that brush, clean it off, get the black again, and just make that a super crisp black for the eye, so they really pop. Go over the nose one more time. We are almost done with our little ancient wise owl guy. Okay, so the last thing you want to do is just kind of fill back in anywhere maybe you're a little too heavy-handed with the black. You just kind of want to soften that up a little bit with a little bit of white. But you don't want to do too much because the feather effect, you don't want to lose it too much. All right, and there you have it, our little snowy, cute little, angsty little guy. Okay guys, that is it for today. I hope you've enjoyed painting your owl. I would love to know what your owl's name is. You can tag me on Instagram at Lisa Shelby Paints, and I'd love to see what you guys have done. So have a great rest of your day. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll catch you on the next one.